Hey, what's everyone? So today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Sculpts Transmutate. So before we take a look at him and his separated mode on tracks, we're going to take a look at the packaging really quickly. So let me just move him off to this side. He does take up a lot of room. So here we have the typical Sculpts packaging, and the only thing that's different is that it says Transmutate on the bottom, and of course his number, which is GS25. So I'm just going to take that off to the side. If you want to see how it's packaged and everything, I did do an unboxing video just a few days ago. I unboxed several figures, Transmutate Tracks, this figure right here, and Wingfinger, so I will review those soon. It was a pretty cool video. I know you guys enjoyed it. I'll try and do more unboxing videos in the future, so without further ado, let's take a look at Transmutate in his separated mode. So if you're wondering why I started with the separated mode, probably just because it's not the main, more important mode. You know, mostly people are looking forward to, of course, the robot and the T-Rex. The separating mode, in my opinion, not the best, I would say. There's really nothing different between this and the Paleotrix separating mode. There is a second version, but I typically just do this one. I'll just briefly take a look at it, and then we'll get into transformation and articulation and stuff like that. So I do have him on tracks. I didn't want to put him on Warpath again, because I already put Paleotrix on Warpath whenever I review Paleotrix. So I wanted to kind of, you know, change it up a little bit. I could, of course, put on any figure. I just wanted, it would make sense to put on an Autobot or a Maximal, because there's times where on packages, they will show a Maximal fossilizer, you know, a separator modulator, whatever you want to call them, put on a Predacon or Decepticon, and I don't think that makes any sense. But here he is in his separating form, and that looks pretty cool. He does have the T-Rex head on his arm. He does have a little armor piece. He has a giant scythe, which does kind of weigh it down a lot, but it does look pretty cool. He does have some grabber arms there. Apologies if I don't get it all in view. It is a very tall thing and very spread out whenever you attach all the pieces onto a figure. So the only thing different between this separating mode, between this and Paleotrix is of course the head sculpt, because in the previous one, you know, whatever you figure put it on, you would use Paleotrix's head as a mace, and in this one, of course, we're using Transmutate's head as the mace, which is right here, and that looks pretty cool. We will dive deeper into the details in just a second when we have it in the T-Rex and robot mode, of course, because it is kind of hard to show all the details in full view when they're all spread across a another figure. So let's just take everything off, and we'll get into transformation. So just unpeg everything. Sometimes you'll have to kind of wiggle it off, and then you can just take Transmutate's head out of Trex's hand, and then you can just take the scythe out, get this little armor piece, take that off, and then go back here, and then you will just unport this from Trex's back, and then we will bring out Trax in a second for comparison in his robot mode. And I'll, of course, also Paleotrix to compare how they are similar and different. So let me just put Trax off to the side for now, and let's separate everything. So I'm just going to move the camera down so you can see all the pieces. So we do have the head, the shoulder piece, and then you're going to get the scythe, and it will separate into three pieces. First, there is this bottom piece, which is super tight sometimes, and then you can separate this piece here. And then the head is, of course, one piece, and then you will separate these pieces here, like that, and then there are the feet pieces, and here's the waist section. So we're going to transform it into the T-Rex mode. So what you're going to want to do with this section is make sure the peg is facing down, and you will have the more detailed part facing in, and that will be ready for the T-Rex. And then you can get the head and make sure the hinge is like this, and then what you're going to do is have this all open up. So there is, you will get this shoulder section, and then you will port it into that section right there, like that. And then there is a tab and a peg, and it will go into this slot and port there. And you will just line that all up on one side, and then just wrap it around and do the same thing on the other side. Sometimes it's kind of hard to align them. Just gotta get everything in place, squeeze it together, And then you can bring out the little T-Rex arms, of course, and straighten everything out. And there is basically the front half of it done. So I will, you can port this into the T-Rex head, of course, but I will show that later when it's complete, because I want to show you with the head and without the head, and show the differences. So now we can get this chest piece, and we will port it on to this bottom section. There are 2 tabs there, and there are 2 slots, of course, on the inside, and you'll just align those, and that will just tab in very nicely. And then you can get these sections here and port these together to form the tail, and you will just connect this on the back. And there is the tail all done. So now let's do the legs. So you're just going to stretch out the toes to form the main part of the foot, and then you will get this section right here. I switched the the pieces because I usually like to keep the kind of uglier side on the inside so we can have the cleaner, more detailed side facing out like that. That's why I switched them, if you were wondering. So now you can do the same thing on the other side, have the kind of joint pieces facing in so you don't see them facing on the outside. And then you can bring these little notches in, and then you can just get this main body section, and there is a port right there, and that will just peg into place. Do the same thing on the other side, of course. Just port that in, and then you can, of course, like bend at the knee to give that kind of chicken leg sort of a look, whatever you would call it. And there is the Transmutate T-Rex mode. So that looks pretty cool. I'm just going to move the camera up a little bit. So there is the T-Rex mode, and I think it looks really, really cool. So before we get into the details on articulation, I do want to say that probably on recording, the colors are kind of distorted, because when I got this figure in hand, I was like, wait, what? That's like, I think it looks a lot different from the figure in hand and the pictures on Hazard Pulse, in my opinion. I think the brown is a lot lighter, so if you see this reviewed, like, oh, is the brown that dark or the bronze? It's not as dark on camera than in hand, because I do have a screen on my camera right now, and I can see, you know, what it shows, and I do think it looks way different from in hand and on screen, so do be aware. The bronze, I don't think it's as dark as it is on screen. If that is a deal breaker to you or not, I don't know. The blue is about the same, I would say. So here is the T-Rex mode. Let's take a look at the details. So the T-Rex head looks pretty darn good. We have some really nice gold teeth, very sharp. We have the hollow look where, you know, of course the eyes and the flesh would be, but of course these are just bones. There's nothing there. And the rest, we have the neck, which is mostly just blue. And, you know, it can open up pretty big. But we'll get into articulation in a little bit. We do have that rib cage look, and I think that looks really, really good. And we do have little dino arms, very small, just blue, and there is 2 little fingers there on each of them. And the rest, we have the tail, which starts with some kind of bronze and then becomes more of the blue. We have some more blue and bronze on the top. We do have that section there, which will be used for the Transmutate head in just a second. We have some more of that bronze kind of brown for the top of the leg, and it kind of slowly becomes more blue for the feet. And we have that really nice toe detail there for the feet, very kind of textured, kind of creepy looking bone-like. I think that looks pretty good. On the bottom, we do have some detail there. That is the chest piece from the robot mode, which we'll see in a little bit. And that's really it for the T-Rex mode. So let's just get the Transmutate head. You just, get it how you want it. So you could have it closed or open, doesn't matter. I'll just have it in the normal position, and then you will just port that into there, and that is how it looks with it on the figure. So, I don't really think, whenever I transform it, I never port it into there, because it doesn't really make sense, because it fills in some space. It doesn't even fill in much, but I know what they were going for. They were going for it to fill in space. I don't think it should, because it is a dinosaur, a bone dinosaur, so, most of the head will be empty and hollow, because, it's dead. The flesh and the skin is gone, just bones, bare bones, so there shouldn't be much in there, of course, So I don't think it really makes much sense. I think maybe they just wanted to put it in there because they didn't want to have, loose parts everywhere. I can agree what they were going for, what predicament they were in, because there is a limited amount of places you could actually put that head besides the T-Rex head. So I can understand their trouble with finding a place for it. But this is how it looks from the back. So it does fill in that space quite a bit. And you can have it open or closed, however you wish. And it does kind of limit the articulation if you have it there of the dinosaur head. It will kind of bump that section there, and you'll see how much more this can open whenever I take the head out for the articulation segment. It doesn't, of course, change the lower jaw at all. Doesn't affect it. But I do think I don't like porting it into place. Tell me what you think in the comment section below of how it looks. So let's just take it out and we'll go over articulation. So I will show you the head now because I did record this once before and I wasn't able to show the head very well, so I will just show it when I have it in hand. So it does look pretty cool. You have that bronze for the most part of the head. We do have some red for the eye and a little bit of black for the outer part. And then, of course, for the rest of it is just blue for the neck. And then you can, of course, open it and have the sonic scream, or whatever you want to call it, transmutate scream. I think that looks pretty cool. And then there's just some black on the inside of the mouth. And, yeah. So now let's show articulation. So the mouth can open very, very big, that wide. And of course it can close, and then there is a hinge there that can go all the way down, and it can move all the T-Rex head all the way up. And there is a hinge there. It can go that far back, that far forward. And that's really it for the head section. For the tail, there is no hinge on the second part, but there is on the front part. There is the hinge there that can go that far up and really that far down. It's really any down. For the T-Rex little arms, it is on a ball joint, so it can rotate, of course, all the way around, and it can't really go that far out at all. For the legs, they can go. There is a lot of articulation because there is a lot of, it can separate a bunch, so there is a ton of articulation. It can go basically that far up, that far down. It can rotate around. There is a second joint here that can go that far in, that far out. There is another joint here that can go that far down, that far forward. And then there is a swivel here which can swivel the foot all the way around. And then there's the toe which can go in, and it can go all the way up, like that. And of course, the same thing for the other leg. Tons of articulation. I probably missed some stuff. I guess you could, for moving forward, you can go that far forward. If you have it in like a standard position, of course, it can go that far forward without bumping into that. And it can go pretty far back. You can just angle it out to, get the more articulation, of course. And there is a swivel here, so you can kind of rock it back and forth. This will kind of limit it. The legs will limit the swivel, but if you kind of want to have a stop motion where it's kind of moving back and forth, kind of a stopping look, you can do that if you want. And this can rotate all the way around. So tons of articulation, which is to be expected. It is a fossilizer, can break into tons of different pieces. So now let's break them into a bunch of pieces and we'll get them into robot mode. So let's just take the tail off, separate it into two pieces. You can bring that head back from earlier. Take this chest piece off, and then you can separate these two rib cage little pieces off there. There you go. And then you can take the head off, and then you can take the legs off. Take the legs off, and there are all the pieces for the robot mode. So now we can transform it. So first what you're going to do is bring the mouth, you're going to get the lower jaw and get this peg, and that will peg right into place. And there is the head all done. and you can get this chest piece and port it onto that section, and that will look like that. And then you can get the waist section, bring it to where this peg faces up. You can just position the little arms however you wish, and that will just peg into place. And then you can bring these in, just separate these. Sometimes it's a little tight. You will bring this knob down to form the heel spur. Do the same thing on the other side. Bring that down to form the heel. And then I like to have this a little bit uglier of a side in so it doesn't show on the out, so it's a little bit more clean like that. But of course, if you don't care, you can do it however you wish. You could port this into that side, but it will show this. It'll be more visible. And then you will just get the head, and there is that same section from earlier. Just port that into place all the way down in there, and there you go. And then you will get this one section. This is for the shoulder. Just peg that into place. Do the same thing for the other side. Of course, it is a different piece. Just port that in. Get the hands. This will go on this side. Just peg that in. Do the same thing for the other one. Peg that in. And there is Transmutate complete. Of course, he does have his weapon. Storage-wise, it is just on his shoulder. There is a slot right there. There is a tab on the sword, and that will just tab into place. And I think it is a lot more secure than it was for Paleotrix. It was a lot looser, would just pop off, and I wouldn't even touch it. I might just set it down, it would just pop off. That is a lot more secure. I think it still could be a little bit tighter, but it is, you don't want it to be too tight where the tab will break. So I think it is in the sweet spot. It's right where it should be. So here's Paleotrix, and I think it looks really, really good. Love the whole bronze and the blue look. It looks kind of like it's like leaking energon, like there's, missing pieces of the armor. I'm a huge Transformers nerd, so I will get carried away with me imagining what it would be, so I will get carried away. But it looks so cool. The head sculpt looks amazing. We showed it earlier. You might not be able to see it as well now because it's on there, so I'm glad I showed it earlier in hand. But it looks amazing. You can do, of course, the scream where it will, blast everyone away, and that's really, really cool. She has the creepy hands. Looks super cool. So let's get a comparison. We'll take a look at the details pretty quick because, of course, the details that came from the T-Rex follow into this. They're pretty much the same thing that we saw earlier. So let's bring out Paleotrix. Sometimes they don't stand very well. So let's bring out Paleotrix right here. Here is, I'll have his arms out kind of like Paleotrix, kind of like Transmutate is, so we can see the similarities and differences. So here they are together, and they do look pretty cool. I will bring his mask down to show the difference, but of course, the only thing that is different is, of course, just the minor sculpting change between the heads, and of course the paint. There is another small change I realized recently is on him. Of course, he is a Predacon, so he has a Predacon symbol on his chest piece. She has no symbol on there. On the instructions, it does classify her as a Maximal, so I'm kind of surprised they didn't put that on there, but I could see why, because in the show they technically never really consider her on a side because she dies the episode she is introduced. So it makes sense. So now we can just get another comparison with Trax, of course. Let me just bring Trax out. Not a related figure, but just to see, size-wise, how tall they are. They're about, I think he's a little bit taller. If you don't include the wings, of course, because you can bring the wings down and move them, of course, so that is a factor. They're about the same size. I'm not sure which one I like more between Paleotrix or Transmutate. I'm not sure. I don't know. They are both pretty cool figures. I will move Trax off to the side again, and we can move his mask down, do his very cool skull mask, and I can give Transmutate her sword. And of course the sword's exactly the same thing, just different paint. So there you go. I did just get this at a local store, so you know, they don't even have a website. They're a very, very small store, so I don't know. I mean, the release date for it is August 1st on Hasbro Pulse. So if you have it ordered on there, you'll probably get it pretty soon. Next few weeks. Usually selects are actually faster than, like, usually they'll have a date and it's usually faster than they say, so you could even get it sooner than around August. So you could get it like end of July, maybe even sooner. So usually that's what happens. But now let's look at the details and we'll do articulation. So the details, the shoulder looks really, really cool with that blade. It's kind of a mix of the blue and bronze. Same thing on the other shoulder, really of a mix of bronze and the blue, and more of that blue for the hands, and more of that bronze for the joints, the elbow joints. Blue for the sword, just completely, and we do have that nice bone texturing effect. Same thing with the fingers for the hands. Looks pretty cool. We have that rib cage detailing there, the blue and the bronze. Really nice chest piece that looks really, really cool with some spikes and stuff. Looks like it's cracked, there's the holes there. And the legs, we have some of that nice kind of bone rib cage detailing there. The little T-Rex arms are sticking out, and I think that looks pretty cool. And really just that same kind of brown for most of the leg, and then just the blue for the toes there. And the heel spurs. And that's about it for details. So let me just take the sword out of her hand so it won't fall off or get in the way, because I'm going to go over articulation. So articulation, the head can rotate all the way around. There is a joint so it can look that far down. It can go that far up. Sometimes it's hard to move back because it opens, but it can go about that far back. And of course, it can open that far. The individual arms, they can rotate all around. There is a swivel at that joint right there. It can swivel all the way around, like that. And this arm here, it can swivel all the way around again. So there is more articulation on this arm than there is for this one, I think. And then it can swivel at the individual just wrist. And then the hand can close that far, and it can open that far. And it can rotate here as well. And for this arm, there is that peg, so it can do the same. There is a swivel here. So it is actually the same articulation for both. And then there is a swivel here, can rotate all the way around, and then there is that swivel there, and it can move back and forth there, and the same articulation, of course, for the hand. For the waist, we can rotate all this around. For the legs, they can go do the full splits. They can move about that far back, very far back. And it can move that far forward. For the swivel, it can swivel all the way around. You just have to move it out a little bit. And for the leg, there is that rotation there. And it can move back and forth. And it can have an elbow bend, knee bend, I mean. And no ankle rocker, no ankle pivot or anything. You can move the heel spurs if you want. Of course, that's somewhat articulation you could consider, if you want. You do just move them, and that's due to transformation. So I guess not really articulation. But that is really it for this review. Tell me what you think of this figure in the comment section below. Not the most interesting review, I would say, but I will review the different, the new molds, like Scorponok, Trax, and Wingfinger. Really, really like Wingfinger. I will get the arc soon also. Whenever you're watching this, right now, T-Rex is available on Targets. I was able to buy it. I have bought it because I have a red card. So if you have a red card, you can buy it. I'm not sure if tomorrow, if you're not a red card, you can get it. I have no idea. I don't even know when they posted it. I just looked today. I hadn't looked in a few days. I look, every once in a while. And today, I was like, wait, what? You can buy it? And I bought it. I don't know. That was several hours ago, so I will post the link to it in the comments and the description below. If it changed, I don't know. I haven't looked in several hours, but as of last time I checked, like a few hours ago, it was only red card. That was it. But maybe tomorrow it will change. It was kind of weird because on the website it said it would be released 24th for red card, 25th for non-red card members. Today's, a lot earlier. So I don't know. Maybe they just got it earlier than they expected. It is a pre-order. Mine says get estimation from the 28th to the August 2nd. So, and it does consider itself to be a pre-order. It's not just slow. It does say it's a pre-order. I don't know. It is kind of weird. I was shocked when I saw it. I was like, okay, I was surprised. I will leave a link in the description down below. I'm not sure if it's still available, so if you do click on it, and don't get mad at me if it's not available, I'll just leave the link there, just even if it's not available, because most likely it will be put back in stock for tomorrow, because they might just have an entire day where they'll only they'll only take like 500 people, or just a random number. They'll only allow a certain number of red cards to order it, and then they'll cut it off, and then they'll bring it back tomorrow for non-red card members. So if it's out of stock today, don't be too worried, because if it's only red cards today, then most likely they will bring it back for everyone tomorrow. Just a guess. I will check in just after I do this video, of course, and I will see what happens. Tell me what you think of this figure in the comment section below. I think it's a pretty good figure, and I think that's it, so I'll see you next time.